I was just waves of anxiety and depression. I couldn't fit in with people, but I would get these real high peaks of high energy and then I'd be crashing the other side. And that's just been a theme for my entire life, right? I always tried to understand it. I just thought I was broken, frankly. At one point, I didn't think I was broken. At one point, I thought we all felt the same way. And I was going, well, life is shit, isn't it? Why is everyone else smiling? I just thought that's the way life was.
Some of you are really good at pretending.
Yeah, you guys are like, good, well done.
Before we kick off today's episode, I've got some more recommendations for you. My first recommendation to you is Infinity Staff Global. Ross and the team specialise in finding you outsourced and offshore staff based out in South Africa. I can talk from experience, fantastic members of staff, but they can help you get 180-degree recruiters, 360 degrees recruiters, back office support, marketing professionals, or even business development professionals for your team. Link in the comments. Next up is Matt Fox and Exodus Advisory. If you're an agency that's looking for guidance and growth advice, if you're looking for mentoring, if you're looking for a recruitment leader to take you from startup through to sell up, Matt Fox is your guy. This is a person who recently went through exiting an agency, explored all the different options, and is very well placed to help you tailor your business model and your business strategy to achieving the exit that you are looking for. My next recommendation is SourceFlow. Now, there's lots of reasons to recommend SourceFlow, but one that stands out for me is their attribution analytics and their actual ROI tools. So SourceFlow shows you agencies exactly where every candidate and every client lead comes from, and soon you'll even be able to do revenue analytics and let you decide and figure out the ROI of every placement that's been made via your website. Again, link in the comments. My next recommendation is The Marketing Junction. So if you're looking to increase your sales and profits, reduce costs, and choose recruitment marketing specialists who've got years of hard-won experience, get in touch with Robert Woodford and the team and take your recruitment marketing that little bit more seriously. My final recommendation for you is none other than Conquest. Carl and the team are the only commission management platform in the recruitment industry. So if you're looking to automate, calculate, and motivate your recruiters using their commission structures, if you want to keep an eye out what's going on, if you want advice and recommendations on how you should be structuring your commissions, get in touch with Carl and the team. Link in the descriptions. Welcome back to another episode of Founder Diaries, a RecTalk podcast. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma. My guest today is a change management specialist who comes at, and a people coaching specialist too, but comes at it through a people-focused lens. He's got a storied career, having worked at the likes of E.ON Energy, Hastings Direct, and the mobile network. Again, all within the change management and moving the business forward perspective. He prides himself on putting people first and building everything that he does in a people-centric way rather than a transactional business. There's not a thing around change management this guy doesn't know about, but it's the people that make the change last. And to kind of explore that in a bit more detail, to tell us his story and to hopefully inspire some of you to follow your own journeys, it brings me great pleasure to introduce Joe O'Mahony.
Nitin, thank you very much indeed.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. We had a bit of a funny situation the other day where we like to do prep phone calls and stuff, and actually you came in because you're local, and then we had a really, really good chat, and I think we were both sort of just mentally spent at the end of it, and we're like, actually, we're not filming now. We gave away way too much good shit without pressing record. So, mate, this is your slot. This is your slot to shine. Give us a bit of background on you, kind of, and just paint the picture for those watching and listening about kind of who you are and why you are.
It's a great question, actually, and it's one of my favourite. And just reflecting on our conversation last week, which was completely ad hoc, right? Oh, yeah. But it was a really, really powerful conversation. And I suppose for me, I came into that conversation last week expecting it to be the podcast, a bit of a miscommunication. But the conversation we had was so natural that it allowed us to really sort of surface some of those things and some of those ideas which thought were really powerful, and that allowed us to really get to the bones of that progression. Like, so for me, I'm sort of 12 years in the corporate world, climbing a ladder, was doing really, really well. I've always been involved in one form or another change, project management, change management, right? As you say, multiple industries. So I started in the energy industry, moved into insurance, over into telco. My my career path, my very conscious decision when I was starting my career was that I wanted to move across industries because it gave me the broadest opportunity to understand best practice, worst practice, how things are working, different types of people, cultures, processes. So that was always a conscious effort on my part. And I was always, I'm quite analytical. So I really enjoy problem solving. I call myself a problem solver and a people builder. I like going and looking at tasks and being able to resolve problems and deliver change, right? Worked my way up. So last role, I was head of portfolio for 3 Mobile. So I was looking after their annual capital investment portfolio, £500 million a year, 1.6 billion over 3 years. I was responsible for prioritising the budgets, demand. I was looking after making sure the financial governance was in place. So high profile role. I was involved in the getting ready for the merger with Vodafone as well, which most people will be aware of. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But I knew that the end of that journey, the end of that merger, and that merger ultimately being completed, was that I was going to leave the business.
Yeah,
that was something that was clear really all the way along. So that gave me an opportunity to really sort of take stock. The other thing I'd been doing consistently throughout my time in delivering change and being involved in changes, I'd been acutely aware of the impact that change has on people. And something that I've always really, really taken seriously and just been naturally drawn to is helping other people, coaching other people, mentoring other people. I understood the impact that change had. Whenever I deliver projects, I really considered the people. There's a distinction between project management and change management. And whilst they are interchangeable, they've got two very distinct purposes and actions. Project management's very technical, right? It's your scope. It's your milestones. It's this needs to be delivered in sequence, then this, then this, then this. Budget management, budget control.
Yeah.
It's a bit more technical. Change management takes that plan and makes it operational, right? It considers the people. It considers how it's going to be delivered, when. It means how we're going to embed it, how we're going to make sure that we get continuous improvement into it. So I was always more drawn to that. But in a lot of instances, you've got one project manager, so you have to be able to switch your hats. What I found was, and what I saw, it not just in specific project and change scenarios, but just in the normal sort of working environment with change, is that there was so much uncertainty and anxiety that was driven by that. And what I found that I was really good at doing was coaching people through that and helping people through that. And through that journey, I developed a real passion for it. Mentoring people who were working directly for me, mentoring people in the wider businesses who had career aspirations, either within the business or outside the business, but also helping people on a personal level. People would generally come to me with issues outside of work. And for me, it was really, really important to make that connection.
How important or how vital do you think the business ethos and culture is with regards to that? Because I know that there are some places that I've worked historically where actually if there was somebody who was so people-centric and people-focused, they'd have been like, Joe, get back to your fucking day job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so
we don't pay you to be a therapist to these people.
It's such a good question.
You got to drop this stuff and get on with it, right?
Yeah, it's such a good question. One of the it's such a good question, and I could talk for hours just on this one topic, right? It's so important to have the right culture within a business. Absolutely. I mean, if you've got a culture within a business that prioritizes people, or at least builds people into its strategy,
factors that into,
right?
Yeah.
So you could be really commercially minded as a business, right? If I talk about 3 who I worked for previously, very, very commercially minded, significant growth, very, very clear on our objectives within the market and growing in the market, but phenomenal focus on people. Right, and it was a priority of them that part of that strategy was to invest in people. Yeah. And I've been in businesses where that's not the case, and you see the impact. Where I was really where I was really sort of benefited was the fact that I was afforded a degree of space in all of those roles as a leader. And as a leader, you have the responsibility. I was going to say the ability, but you have the responsibility to coach, to mentor, right?
This is where you set the tone of that culture.
Exactly. Right? You can define your own culture within the culture of the business.
Yeah.
Now, you can either reinforce a positive people culture that exists within a business if it does, Or actually, if it doesn't exist, you can develop that culture within your own team, right? And you can let that permeate out.
Because again, factoring in their hopes, their dreams, their ambitions, these are potentially future leaders elsewhere.
Of course they are.
And by fostering such an environment, you want them to stay within the business and move on within the business and take those cultural learns with them and kind of be like, actually, do you know what? My boss used to spend a lot of time with me making sure I'm okay. So I'm going to be that way. Because a lot of us, very much like kind of how we parent our own children, it's learnt behavior, right? We parent as we were parented or see that, no, I'm definitely not doing that. I'll do the opposite, right? And it's the same with management. A lot of managers go off and people in new managers and new leadership roles tend to just replicate what was done to them or go the other complete opposite route. This was what was done to me, I'm going to do the opposite.
Yeah. So you used a couple of words there. So management and leadership. When I started my sort of management career, I was a manager. And I was really uncomfortable with it. I was asked to manage tasks. I was asked to manage metrics. I was asked to manage people to metrics. Yeah. And I hated it because it didn't focus on the person. And actually, it was really inflexible. I don't care about your personal life. I don't care why you're late because you're not meeting these numbers and these metrics and these metrics. And actually, leave your personal life over there. Do not bring it in, right? Yeah. And that's the difference. So I'm really, really clear. You manage tasks. You lead people.
Yes.
Right? You don't manage people because fundamentally, in my experience, and there'll be always an argument to say it's not always accurate, but in my experience, if you manage people, then the person is almost always removed from the conversation, right? And those who are unable to relinquish control, either because they've got their own egos or because they're too scared of their own inabilities within the role, they will manage people because they can't let go, right? But actually your job is not to deliver the task. That's what these people are designed to do or intended to do. Designed is an awful word, isn't it? Your job is to give them the safe space to do that. Not only to be able to deliver, you're meant to be able to give them air cover when the shit hits the fan, and you're meant to give them the capacity and the freedom and the ability to grow as individuals. Now, to your point, it might be because you want to keep them in the business, and obviously every business wants to retain good talent and nurture good talent.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you want them to grow and be happy and comfortable. And there is going to be a point where if you've done a really, really good job at leading people, developing people, coaching people, then they're going to fly the nest. Yeah. And you also can't keep them here. If you are wing clipping somebody just because you need that person, that's the wrong thing to do as well, right? So for me, it's back to the culture piece. It's just fundamental. I know what my culture is. Yeah. And my culture is around people. Now, your other point is, well, get back in your box, Joe. You've got a job to do. You have to do both. You have to do both. A couple of people ask me, well, how do you marry up change? My business, Videre, right? Change management, people coaching. Yeah. How do you marry those two things up? Well, I say quite simply, well, the two are interchangeable. My experience, what I'm technically very, very good at is delivering change. Yeah. Right? But actually, because of the journey I've been on and the things I'm really, really passionate about, I understand that in order to deliver change effectively, you have to consider the people.
Because you've seen it fail.
Of course.
Listen, I can come in and do all the things that you're asking me to do and deliver all those metrics and manage the people into, and force them into doing the things the way you want them to be done now. That's great, but this will fail.
Yeah.
And this will fail because you haven't considered the people.
Yeah.
Because 100%. The people are the things that are going to drive the longevity of this project and the longevity of this change management piece you're going through. Yeah. If you're not willing to listen and adhere and take into account these people, or even invest in supporting them through this time of change, well, you're going to get disaster.
It's exactly that.
You want me to come in and do? Listen, I'll come in and do it. Yeah. But when it goes wrong because you didn't let me do it my way, don't be blaming me. Don't be pointing the finger at me.
And it's less about my way. It's more about the people way. And when I say the people way, it's about actually understanding.
But if you're the flag bearer of the people way, right, that becomes your way. Because exactly. Listen, we know this, right? In the change management world, much like many other industries, it's a competitive space, and there will be somebody that can do it for cheaper. There'll be somebody that can promise to do it quicker. There'll be somebody that will kind of undercut in some way, shape, or form. But if the one value piece that you will refuse to budge on is the people piece, well, there's not many people that are doing that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's exactly that, Nitin. And I think the thing for me is, whilst those two elements are interdependent, I also deliver them exclusively, independently of each other, right? And what I've found recently is actually there's a greater leaning towards people wanting mentorship and coaching, right? Within the context of the business is changing. We're growing as a business, but actually this is already happening, right? So I'm working with a couple of scale-ups at the minute, and they've done the startup bit and they're growing. And actually and they're on that journey and it's already been initiated. But what they've then gone is oh shit, like the people aren't coming with us. There's frustration, there's irritation, there's conflict growing. And actually where I've been engaged repeatedly recently is on, we need some help on bringing our people back in, right? Getting that engagement where taking them on the journey. We need, mentorship program that's 6 month, 12-month mentorship program that says actually we need to acknowledge our people. We need to take them on that journey, and we need to support them with that journey. And that's where I'm getting a lot of interest at the minute, and it's independent of the change that's happening. And I can lean into that, and I can give my advice on that. If somebody else is in doing that thing within the business or others, I'm not going to step on toes, right? But there's an interlink to be had there.
Why do you think that is? What do you think is driving that trend at the minute?
I think you've got a few things actually, but primarily it's down to two things, I would say, certainly in the interactions I've had. One, because you've got a lot of startups in certain industries, medical tech, for example, that have done pretty well and are very, very quickly scaling up because the demand is there, because there's a lot of focus in the area. And the thing you get with startups, again, speaking generally, is lots of very, very smart, capable, technically minded people that are very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And then what they then do is they grow, they bring in some people-focused people whose books are usually stacked, right? And they don't necessarily have the capacity to bring in that additional resource on an enduring basis, on a salaried basis, but they can see the conflict. The conflict is brewing, right? And actually what they need to do is have that dedicated, potentially short-term, 1, 2, 6 month program of work to bring those people back in line, to give them the support that they need, to make sure that they're feeling valued, and to make sure there's a framework in place. So that's one. And you've got, and certainly in the interactions I've had, the scale up there's a market there. And the other is just the very nature of corporate world and change at the minute. Businesses are under pressure, right? Yeah. If I go to the market now and try and look for contracting work, no one's interested. It's Q4. We're waiting for another budget. We have no idea what's going to be said. Businesses are reining in their costs.
Everything's been kicked into the long grass, isn't it? Yeah.
I've just said I've come from, there's huge waves of redundancies across multiple industries and businesses at the minute. But what happens is there's two things there. You've got people who are leaving work, and I know this firsthand, who then their sense of self, because if their sense of self was so heavily linked to that thing they were doing, they lose that sense of self. Yeah. Then they're in a job market that is awful, and so you get battered every time you get a rejection. So there are individuals who are coming to me going, can you just give me some advice? Can you give me some advice? And what I can't do is say, if you do these things, you'll get a job, because the market's horrendous. So what I can say is, if you do these things, then you're in a really good position, not only to pitch yourself as a good candidate for the role, but also to make sure that you've got a valuable view of yourself, right? Which is really important. So you get that. But you also get those businesses who have gone through those redundancies and are transforming, who then need help on, bringing their people
either with them
back.
Or bring
there's a lot of trauma, people think
trust is lacking now.
Trust is lacking, confidence is lacking, but naturally people will go, those who are made redundant have gone through a traumatic experience, and all you who've retained a job, you're really lucky. But actually generally businesses make redundancies and the work continues, and it's traumatic for those individuals who stay in the business, not because only they've lost colleagues, and it's been damaging and bruising for everybody who's been through the process, but then they've got to adapt to new ways of working. They're probably going to have to take on a ton of work,
additional work or responsibility, or both. Yeah,
there's change on all levels, and all of that needs some support. Right, all of that needs an element of coaching. All of that needs the personal element. So, yeah. So look, those that's where I'm having a lot of conversations at the minute. The other thing that I find is lacking sometimes is the approach that some businesses use towards employee surveying.
Okay.
So what I've seen historically throughout my sort of career in the corporate world is, businesses will do the right thing and go out, the annual survey and the 6-month temperature check type stuff, right? Scorers on 1 to 5 on this and 1 to 5 on that, right? And here's a box for some free text, but by the way, we're probably not going to read all the free text because it's free text, and that's there's a manual investment there, right? But what I also see is that the questions that are asked are leading or leaning, and the businesses can quite often go, we've done really well with this, right? And an indication of really well is we got a 70%. We've got a 75%. That's really good. We've got some actions to do, but let's all clap, right? We've all done the thing, and maybe
let's all give ourselves a pat on the back.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I would argue 75% is not high, and two, if the questions are designed to get you to a positive response, or certainly cumulatively, then you're probably not giving the employees the ability to articulate themselves and raise things. And then your free text is going to be, okay, well, these comments were made in this area, so that area needs to go and have a look at this stuff. But there's no holistic view of what that ultimately tells us. It's improving. I just partnered with a company who use AI to analyze those responses, and they use that then to tell different stories. They pick up explicit comments, implicit questions. They can very, very quickly identify high risk areas as well, and things that maybe just aren't necessarily known by the business. Maybe one person's made this comment, but actually it's identified as a critical commercial risk, because a project's not been delivered or whatever, or this process isn't working. So there are things that are being done now, MyCanda being one. There's loads of others where actually you can bring that voice, that colleague voice, to the fore, and to use it to better inform the decisions you're making, right, and the next steps you need to take. So getting that employee engagement and that surveying is really important, and listening to it, particularly at a time where businesses are changing. That's when you really need to be checking in, not when things are going well. It's not about high fives because the numbers are being hit and all the rest of it. When the rubber's hitting the road, are you giving the time to really listen?
Within that though, there's a lot of I find, certainly in my experience, as a business grows, and certainly at the big corporate level, at board and C-suite, it probably starts off as hey, we really need to have our finger on the pulse. We need to know what's going on. So let's engage this employee survey and let's actually find out. But then as you go further and filter further down, the leadership teams and the management teams are almost afraid of being found out. And so, we'll present information in certain ways. We'll mask questions in a certain way. We'll kind of, dare I say, sort of impact the results in favor of themselves. So the C-suite will never really get an accurate, true response and reflection of the business because there's self-preservation going on within the various different departments. Let's be honest, if the board want to know, well, listen, we want to know what everyone thinks of working here. If you're a manager and you're a pretty poor manager, for a fact that in the back of your mind, you're going to be thinking, I don't want to give them anything to get rid of me for. I need to preserve my space and place in the team now.
Yeah, I agree. So there's a few things there. So firstly, if your area, your team is underperforming, the numbers will speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't always hide from that. But actually, if there's something systemically wrong, culturally wrong within your team, then there's always going to be an element of self-preservation, right? And that's the type of thing that needs to be surfaced. But principally, it comes down to culture again. If, as a leader, you are in fear of being exposed, then that suggests to me that either you're a fraud, which is rarely the case, although imposter syndrome is always present.
I was just going to say,
right?
yeah.
And that's something that that needs managing and support with separately. But actually, if you go back to the cultural piece, if you're that scared of being found out, then there's something inherently wrong with the culture within the business.
Yes.
The other thing is the approach that you take and businesses take and individuals take towards failure. You cannot be afraid to fail. In actual fact, you should embrace it. You should celebrate it. You should never be embarrassed for failing. You should be embarrassed for not learning, or you should be embarrassed for not holding your hand up. You should be embarrassed for not sharing the lesson. But you should never be embarrassed for failing, because that's how we all grow, right? I say to the kids all the time, like, you have to make mistakes in order to grow. You cannot be afraid of it. I'll actively say, I messed this up. I got this wrong, and this is what I learned.
But again, this comes back down to fostering that culture from top down, though, doesn't it?
100%. But yes, top-down culture within a business is absolutely important. You have to create that environment. You have to create that psychological safety. But even if that doesn't exist, and by the way, if you're in an environment where that doesn't exist, it's time to step off.
Right. Yeah.
If it doesn't fit for you, I mean, you can be like numbers. This is my environment. I make a shitload of money.
Yeah.
If that's the environment you're in and it works for you, great. Right. That's you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But if you're not in an environment that works for you, right, that gives you, if you're that way inclined as I am to want to be empathetic and to grow and to focus on the people side and to feel valued in that space, it's time to go. But it doesn't mean that you can't then practice those principles yourself.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't mean just because you're in work and you don't get the opportunity, doesn't mean you can't go home and reflect and learn and write lessons and and learn from any mistakes you may have made. And maybe in that scenario, one of those mistakes you made was taking the job, right? But you should never ever be embarrassed about making a mistake. You have to be able to learn from it, share from it, right? And nobody's perfect from the start. For God's sake, you have to, the perception now is you have to be perfect from the start. I remember as a kid, every time I couldn't do something, I gave up. I gave up because I thought, well, if I can't do it, I'm not going to do it. Because I didn't understand that you had to keep doing stuff. I didn't understand that every time you did something, your brain picked up a little bit more of what you should and shouldn't have done.
Yeah. But then it's because we hear things like, oh, this guy's naturally gifted. We devalue hard work at times, I think, as a society when we say things like, oh, you're just a natural at this.
Yeah. Like,
okay, yeah, but that's still, being a natural still takes time. I watched a clip the other day. It was of Michael Jordan being interviewed in his home, and they were like, the interviewer was like, okay, so do you still shoot hoops? And he was like, do you see any hoops around here? Like, no, I don't. When was the last time you shot a hoop? He was like, well, actually, I was doing an event. It was a charity event. And, the guy was like, oh, hey, would you mind throwing a free throw? And he goes, I hadn't thrown a free throw for years. And in my head, I'm like, crap. Like, there are young kids around here who've heard the tales and the lore of Michael Jordan, and probably only know him now because of the shoes and stuff like that, right? And he was like, the amount of pressure I was under, thinking, this is like, I don't. What if I miss? What if I mess up now? Do you know what I mean? We put this pressure onto ourselves, but
we do.
We write off people's abilities of kind of you're successful because you showed up every day, you put in the grind, you learn from your mistakes by just saying, oh, it's just naturally good at this, aren't you?
Yeah, it's. I'll say something that some people may disagree with or find inflammatory. It's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Now, whilst you may have a potentially genetic disposition towards this or that or the other, right? Because things are inherited, you can't dispute that. But fundamentally, you don't have a inherent natural talent for something of that degree. You don't. You really, really don't. Actually, what it comes down to is nature and nurture. Fundamentally, it comes down to nature and nurture, right? So for example, and I read a lot on sort of neuroscience and psychology, and I do that because I've self-taught and self-learned because of, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but the journey I've been on with my own mental health has been really important for me to understand. Really important for me, and it's been such a journey. And there's a book by David Eagleman called The Brain.
Okay.
It might be The Brain Story Review actually, but it is an end-to-end story of the brain development, conception right through. And it says that, and it teaches you that ultimately it talks about the plasticity of the human brain very early on. And it talks about all the neural pathways that are created within the brain. And actually it says that, and all of those neural pathways are potential. And the pathways that are nurtured and reinforced are the ones that strengthen and then remain, right? So the better and more varied stimulation you have as a baby, right, the more balanced you are. Or actually, if actually as a baby you are exposed to these types of activities and behaviours more so than others, right? Maybe you do more dexterous stuff, or you might be more sporting. That's a theory of mine. I'm not saying that's it. But what essentially happens is you've got all these neural pathways available to you and are active. And from the age of 2, a process of neural pruning takes place, where any of those pathways that aren't repeatedly used are pruned back, right? Yeah. Because we just don't use them. A 2-year-old child has 2 times as many neural pathways active in their brain than an adult. The things they don't do and you don't do as a young person, those are the things that are pruned back. So who we are is not just what we do, it's what we don't do. Yeah? So this whole natural ability thing, well, you're sort of downplaying a lot of stuff. You're downplaying the inputs you've had early on in your life, right? And actually that's why parenting is so important, to give that level of nourishment and varied nourishment and engagement, because they help to strengthen those pathways. But actually, to be successful at something, you have to put the hours in. You have to put the time in. You're not naturally gifted at something.
You should repeat it.
It's because for one reason or other you become fascinated in something, so you keep doing it. Or you've just decided you really want to be something, you have a passion with something, so you keep doing it. You have to. It's that 10,000 hours concept again. And the minute we say, to your point, they're naturally gifted at it, then everybody else goes, I'm not naturally gifted at it, so I won't put it in. I said to you before we started recording today, I was in bands when I was younger, right? And I loved it, and I still sing and play a little bit now. And I was at a point when I was about 15, 16, I was going to be in a band. That was me. I was going to make it. Yeah. Everyone does. If you want to be a footballer, whatever it is, that thing is your passion. There's one reason why I'm not a successful musician right now. One reason.
Didn't stick at it.
Didn't put the time in. Yeah. I was too busy telling people I was in a band and didn't spend enough time being in a band. I didn't put enough time. That's on me. Yeah. I'm okay with that. But that's on me. It's not because, and back to that natural ability, I was exposed to music from an early, but I have a passion for music, but it wasn't, it's because of the things I was exposed to. I was exposed to music. I was exposed to the beauty of music, the social element of music. If I wanted to be a musician, like now, sitting here, if I could not sit here now saying that, the world failed me because I didn't become a musician, and it was the spirits or whatever. It's because I didn't put the time in. Yeah. Simple as that.
No, I get it. My first recommendation to you is Infinity Staff Global. Ross and the team specialise in finding you outsourced and offshore staff based out in South Africa. I can talk from experience, fantastic members of staff, but they can help you get 180-degree recruiters, 360 recruiters, back office support, marketing professionals, or even business development professionals for your team. Link in the comments. Next up is Matt Fox and Exodus Advisory. If you're an agency that's looking for guidance and growth advice, if you're looking for mentoring, if you're looking for a recruitment leader to take you from startup through to sell up, Matt Fox is your guy. This is a person who recently went through exiting an agency, explored all the different options, and is very well placed to help you Tailor your business model and your business strategy to achieving the exit that you are looking for. My next recommendation is SourceFlow. Now, there's lots of reasons to recommend SourceFlow, but one that stands out for me is their attribution analytics and their actual ROI tools. So SourceFlow shows you agencies exactly where every candidate and every client lead comes from, and soon you'll even be able to do revenue analytics and let you decide and figure out the ROI of every placement that's been made via your website. Again, link in the comments. My next recommendation is the Marketing Junction. So if you're looking to increase your sales and profits, reduce costs, and choose recruitment marketing specialists who've got years of hard-won experience, get in touch with Robert Woodford and the team and take your recruitment marketing that little bit more seriously. My final recommendation for you is none other than Conquest. Carl and the team are the only commission management platform in the recruitment industry. So if you're looking to automate, calculate, and motivate your recruiters using their commission structures, if you want to keep an eye out what's going on, if you want advice and recommendations on how you should be structuring your commissions, get in touch with Carl and the team. Link in the descriptions. So what led you down this path then? Because your background isn't psychology, is it?
No.
And obviously having an appreciation and understanding and dare I say a passion in kind of psychology and human behaviour certainly helps in this field. What made you go, this is my call and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one that evokes an element of emotion in me. So I've spent my entire life being acutely aware of and in tune with people's emotions. I've always been aware of slight facial expressions and I physically felt pain in others. If I see people struggling, then I feel that, and I've always been that way. I drove past a young girl with her mum the other day. A girl had earphones on, sensory earphones on, and she was having a meltdown in the street. Probably autistic was my read. And she was having a meltdown in the street, and her mum was just standing there with her, not pulling or pushing her anywhere.
No, just being present.
Just being present. And this kid was just, and I felt the pain in that moment, and I physically felt it, and I cried in the car because I could feel it, and I could see how much she was suffering. So I've always had this sort of connection with people, not just negative emotions, but positive emotions. I get a lot of energy one way or another. So that's just always been a part of me. I've always wanted to help people, and I've always tried to understand who I am, because I've never felt connected to the world. I always felt like I was an observer to the side. I never felt like I was connected to my body. I never understood. I don't keep friends. I've never understood how to be part of a social setting, and I was never the popular kid in the footballer, all that type of stuff. I didn't keep friends. I didn't understand the world around me, and as I say, never felt connected. And then for the past 20 years, certainly when I sort of puberty and onwards, I had really, really significant problems with my mental health. Really, really big, and they just got worse and worse. I went to university, and I was just waves of anxiety and depression. I couldn't fit in with people, but I would get these real high peaks of high energy, and then I'd be crashing the other side. And that's just been a theme for my entire life, right?
Okay.
I always tried to understand it. I always knew I just thought I was broken, frankly. At one point, I didn't think I was broken. At one point, I thought we all felt the same way.
Yeah.
Right. I was going, well, life is shit, isn't it? Why is everyone else smiling? Like, we're all right. I just thought that's the way life was.
Yeah, some of you are really good at pretending.
Yeah, you guys are like, you're good, well done. But look, this went on for 20 years, and trying to get help and trying to get support, and the older I got, the worse it got. Lots of irresponsible behaviours, multiple failed relationships, just absolute chaos. And it was, I'd wake up and go, I've done it again. I'm here again. Like I'm through the floor. I want to kill myself. Literally, the suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, and a week before I'd been really high and had all these ideas, and within a few days I'm like, I can't even look at those things, right? And I'm through the floor, and I've probably let people down, or whatever it may be. And this was just constant. And I'd regularly try and get help. And you're just anxious. You're just this. You're just a bit low. You go for a run, which is good advice, by the way. And running is a big help for me, but I wasn't getting anywhere. And then 2024 happened, and I went to the GP, again, really low mood, just after Christmas. And I've always resisted medication.
Mm-hmm.
I've always, I've seen, how that can impact people. So I've always sort of resisted it. But on this occasion, January 24, I was so low, I was prepared to try anything. So
But this is that piece, though, isn't it? It's like, look, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to put my concerns about medication to a side if it means just for a day I feel normal.
Well, the point was made to me that, maybe if this is a chemical imbalance, we can introduce the right chemicals to rebalance.
Makes sense.
Fine. So I was prescribed antidepressants, and that generated 4 months of chaos. It was like I'd been strapped to the side of a rocket, flying at 1,000 miles an hour. I could not get off. I was literally manic.
And did you know at the time, as in inside you, that like I'm this is nuts, but I can't stop this?
My heart was racing. I was running around. I was giving money to people. I was making friends with homeless people. I thought I could solve world homelessness. Right? I'd come up with this whole idea. I was sitting, filming conversations, giving money out, taking the kids and spending more money on kids, taking loans out, doing like everything was at 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Sweating.
You touched on this last week when we spoke, and I didn't want to pry too much.
It was,
but like that. Was that what I'm going to be a social media superstar, or was that like no? I have the ability to do this.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was nothing to do with fame for me. It was a social thing. I used to sit with homeless people and film and talk to them and interview them. And I was like, I've got this great idea, and I couldn't understand why. I rang my brothers, and I couldn't understand why they weren't
showing the same enthusiasm.
Yeah, and I was angry. I was like furious. But I'd got a young family at home, and I'm bouncing around all over the place. And I remember thinking, if this is happiness, I don't want it.
Yeah.
If this is what it means to be happy, I don't want it. Maybe it's because I'm not exposed to it, but I can't have this. I was kicked out of the house repeatedly, understandably. And
again, at this time where you were having this manic episode, do you know deep down you're like, this isn't right?
I knew,
or are you just so far gone that you're like, this is normal?
Highs and lows, but I knew it wasn't right, but I couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
And I'd gone back to GP as part of the initial review, probably a month or so in, and
so how's it going? Sit down. Yeah.
So it's not working. It's not. She upped the dose.
Wait till you hear this.
Yeah.
Oh right.
She upped the dose, doubled it.
Excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so look, it was horrendous, and I lost everything. Lost my partner, lost the kids, and they moved out. The day they moved out, I went out for the day to let them move out. I got the message to say we're out, and I went home to an empty house. No partner, no kids, no furniture, no pictures. Just a big echoey house that was once our family home.
Yeah.
I had a TV on the wall. I had a fold-out camp bed. I had the bed just left in the bedroom. And I sat there on this fold-out camp bed, looking at the TV. I didn't put it on. I just sat there in this echoey room, going, "What's happened? How's this happened?" And I was eventually referred to psychiatry after that event. I was referred back in 2019, and I had such a horrendous experience through the NHS. I didn't want to do it, but I was referred again. It was an escalated case this time, and I had a completely different experience. And what happened? I was finally listened to and taken seriously. And I went in to see that psychiatrist on the first meeting, and the first thing he said to me was, "I need to apologise to you. I've been looking at your notes, and I can see you've been asking for help since you're at university, and I'm really sorry this has happened to you." And subsequently, through the process, it's been determined not only do I have bipolar disorder, I've more than likely got autism, although there's a long wait for that assessment. And it transpires that the antidepressant I was prescribed in January 24, you do not give to somebody with bipolar because it can put them in a hypomanic state. And I was throwing these things back like sweets, thinking
double dose. This is fixing me.
This is the solution. I just have to ride this out, right? So diagnosis came, and my world changed for the better, because actually I'm in control now, and I've got the right medication, and I haven't had any issues since. And part of me sits here angry that it's taken this long to get here.
Yeah.
But part of me wouldn't change it. There's things I would change. The pain I've caused other people, I will always regret, and will spend the rest of my lifetime.
But you don't need me to tell you this, right? But that then also forms part of their story and their journey. And, do you know what I mean?
Of course it does. To think that I've upset other people is I'll never be okay with.
Yeah,
right? And
I get that. It's genuinely bothersome for you, isn't it?
And I'm a very present father, so we even though I'm separated from the kids, I FaceTime the youngest every day. My oldest from a previous partner, because multiple failed relationships, is still with me 50% of the time. I have good relationships with both mums, because it's important that the kids see that's the way you should act. I want my daughters to see that the expectation is that fathers and partners will be respectful. Right, and I want to show that to them, because if they go into the world, I want the bar to be, this is what's expected. Anything below that is not acceptable. And I want the boys to see that I treat their mum with respect, and I'm still there for them. And just because the relationship's failed with the mom, who I still care about and still love and still want to help, it doesn't mean that our relationships go. Right, it's not your fault. And so I need to make sure that I'm there for all of them. And I'll always want to repair the damage I did in terms of the hurt and all that type of stuff. But fundamentally, all of that has made me who I am. Right? And this is why I talk about celebrating and embracing failure. Because for me, when I was sat in that empty, echoey house, everything gone, I had two options: rebuild or give up. That was it. Right? I'm either going to have to own up to this, face into it, fix it, or I'm just going to lie down here and
just never get back up.
Never get back up, right? And that's fundamentally it. You just have to get up. You have to learn. You have to embrace it. It made me who I am. So I've always had that natural inclination towards helping people. That's then become reinforced by my own journey, and because I understand the pain that people experience, I sort of have self-taught skills that I can teach to other people. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is, whilst all of that was going on, I just carried on working. I didn't take a single sick day, because all I had was my job. I mean, it's 120 grand a year job with bonus all in, massive amounts of pressure. But the only place I had any level of control was in my job. It was the only place I had any control. And I was turning up at 60% maybe capacity, but I'm good.
But it was enough to get the deliverables done, and
and I had a duty to my people as well as everybody else. But the only place I had any control, never took a single sick day.
That's the bit I find the most wild, is this ability to perform, right? And I think for a lot of people listening and watching, that's a stark message that even a senior leadership role and an important role within a business, you've got somebody whose life could be falling apart and you ain't got a clue. And if your culture in your business is, oi, leave your problems at the door. Right? This is the stage we perform here. Leave all your problems behind that door when you first walk in. If that's your culture, you're destroying your people, because you're not fostering an environment where actually they can sit and go, do you know what? My life is a mess, and I'm falling apart, and I need help.
So it's so important, and I should say, the last company I was at where that was at its worst, the culture was fantastic there. I could have quite easily said, I'm out. I'm going to have to take a couple of months, but actually, that for me wouldn't have worked.
I remember you saying your manager was very supportive and stuff, but even that person didn't know enough.
Well, I didn't disclose
the full picture.
Right? I didn't disclose enough.
But there's a lesson to learn within that. Because you can create and foster that culture. Right. And they might tell you some.
But I think
they might not tell you everything, and so it's understanding that. Isn't it?
So I think it's the culture is about giving the space and the freedom and the safety to be honest. But depending on the situation, like in my situation, it was utter shame at what was going on, right? So I would share, but I wouldn't disclose the whole thing. But for me also, I had to keep earning. had to keep paying the bills. I was racking up more bills, but the only way I could provide for anyone, the kids and everyone, was to keep working. It was the only thing I had that I could have any level of control. It's the only thing I was good at as well.
The value that you import.
So it was literally the only value I could offer. When everything else was falling apart, it was the only value I could offer. It was the only opportunity I had to just do that thing that I was good at. I knew that if I lost that, I would literally lose everything. Like the house would be gone, everything at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's even harder to come back from.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kept working throughout everything. I'd be kicked out of the house sometimes, and I'd either be in a hotel room,
nuts, isn't it?
Right, or my mum and dad's house. I'd be logging on for calls in the morning, and nobody would know.
Morning.
Nobody would know. Right. I'd maybe slept an hour. I'd be absolutely drained, or I just had a manic state, and I was absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
And I'd log on, blur the background. Nobody knew, right? Nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew the situation because it was the shame of and it, like I say, my boss was amazing. Absolutely, and that was
even
the difference.
Then you wouldn't give her the full.
No, but that was the difference. To have a leader who had that level of compassion. Mm-hmm. He taught us a lot about. He gave us the freedom to be good leaders as well. But it was that level of compassion.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him, he didn't know how bad it was, but I remember saying to him at my end of year review, it might have been my final end of year review with him before the business started doing its thing and redundancies and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to him, in summary of the year, I said, I almost killed myself 3 times this year. And I think that's when he realised, I said, there's so many times I might not just not been here. I just wanted to give up. I'd had enough and I was failing everybody and completely broken. I think that was the first time I properly sort of disclosed a little bit more.
You said it out loud as well, I suppose. Yeah.
So yeah, look, I mean, I have a serious desire to help everybody not be in that space. And by the way, that's a really extreme example of suffering, right? But people can be struggling just because there's change happening, just because there's a bit of conflict, just because they don't understand somebody at work or at home or whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be on that, but it can go there if you don't help people out, if you don't take that into consideration, if you don't give them the space. So I help people, I coach people, I look at what they need professionally, career-wise, but I'm also interested in wherever they're willing to share at what level, what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah.
How do we feed that in? And how do you make sure that you marry who you are as a person with what you do?
Do you find that people find it easier to talk to you rather than their boss?
Yeah.
Right. It's that therapy approach, isn't it? Right.
Well, it's the therapy approach. It is the separation approach.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually, I probably can't disclose this within this space because this is all linked with the role, and you need that degree of separation.
And human nature is to react in the way that humans do, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it's how you frame that, and it's we referenced this earlier about trust, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about. I'm here to listen to you, to help you, and I need to build that trust with you, which means I'm not going to disclose something unless you're in danger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I need to do something to protect you or someone else, if you disclose you're planning to do something to somebody else, then of course I'm going to have to take action. But if you share that you're struggling with something in your personal life or actually, whatever it may be, that's between you and I. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? And you need to feel safe enough to share that if you think it's relevant, if you think I can help. I don't need to know your life story.
Yeah.
But I do want to help. And if I can do that, then I will do that, right? So, I mean, that's it, right? That's the driver, that's the passion. But I do it on every level. And I truly believe that if you can help someone with a purely work-based problem that they're facing, it will impact positively their life because they are going to go home and take it.
Well, listen, people spend the majority of their waking week at work.
Yeah.
Right? That is their life.
Yeah.
This whole concept of work-life balance, it's misconstrued in that we basically have this thing where we're like, you sell your time to your employer and you work so many hours of a week so that you can build a life or enjoy things in your personal life.
Yeah.
Whereas that narrative really needs to change where you go, you're exchanging your time for money. So enjoy that time.
Yeah.
You can still have fun at work and be feeling like you're doing something of value and adding to society and.
Yeah.
But that's the responsibility of the entire business to have that ethos.
Of course it is. And I think in a post-COVID world, it's even more important.
100%.
So what happened was, I'm not telling you what happened in COVID, we were all there, but what happened as part of that is everyone went to home working.
Yeah.
Right? You literally had a window into people's personal lives, right? And a lot of people were going to work and keeping the two things very separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly if they were struggling at home or whatever it may be, or just because they need that separation. The minute we started working from home and it became the norm, you were literally bringing people into your houses virtually through a camera, right? So naturally the borders, the boundaries blend. So you almost have to start. You're forced in some instances to blend the two.
It's a very interesting lens through which to look at it through. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and
you got some that would blur their backgrounds, some that went out of their way to dress up a particular corner of their room that they were in. To present something out. You had others that would make a virtual background, and that there's this a rationale and a reasoning behind every one of those decisions.
Yeah, of course there is. And so that really forced people to confront the relationship between, personal life and professional life and what that looks like. And that doesn't go away now.
No.
Right? And that's why over the past few years, the focus on, well-being or whatever you want to call it, happiness, work-life balance has become even more important because it's so intrusive. It's intrusive. You cannot say that the two are separate because they are, through a portal in your laptop.
Whether you say it or not,
it
doesn't matter. It's just not the truth, right? Nope. Right, I want to wrap up with the 3 questions we usually ask every guest on Founder Diaries. The first one is, what is your biggest success in life or career? What do you look at and are you most proud of in terms of achievement or success?
The kids. And the reason I say that is not because I think I've done an amazing job, because it's always an ongoing thing and parents always make mistakes. The reason I would say the kids is because despite all of the turmoil and because of the broken relationships, I've continued to be present, to be a positive impact on their lives and to demonstrate what a good father should be even where the relationship has ended. So if I look at what I'm most proud of, it's being able to be a present father from a distance and to be present and to be involved in their lives. And that's hard work. And it's not just hard work for me, it's hard work for the mums because they're, they're carrying the can as well. So
that's right. Yeah.
You hear all these stories of absent fathers and fathers who don't want to be involved in their children's lives, they aren't making the effort. I don't want to be that.
No.
But I also see the stories of all these men out there, fathers out there who are really trying and not getting the opportunity for one reason or another. And I see lots and lots of mothers who are struggling because they're not getting the support. So the proudest thing and the most consistent thing for me is the kids, the relationships I have with them, and that will always be my priority.
I love that. Yeah, that's always my answer as well. I always say to people that my only purpose on this planet is to be a dad to those 2 girls.
Yeah.
Everything else is just shit that I do to keep me busy while they're busy. Do you know what I mean?
It's as simple as that.
People really struggle in my world certainly to get their head around that sometimes. But
when it comes back to purpose,
it's starting to bleed through now. I've now started to see the influence that I'm having, given what I get to do in the industry that I operate in, where then I get people who will go, I'm taking half term off.
Yeah.
Because you always take half term off.
Yeah.
And you always talk about it. I'm doing this with the kids because you've inspired in such a way in that you've gone, if you can't build your business that allows you to take 2 weeks off with the kids over Easter, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, of course you are. And again, work-life balance.
That's it.
Right? Lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. Your not biggest regret, but your kind of your biggest the biggest lesson learned in your career or personal life again. Sort of, call it a development area, call it a mistake, call it a failure. Your biggest learn.
Listening. So, and again, it comes down to a few different facts. It comes down to an element of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to an element of self-preservation early on. And it comes down to, certainly early on, an element of ignorance and arrogance.
Mm.
I wasn't a very good listener. I'd hear stuff,
but
I wouldn't listen. And actually, that's the biggest lesson for me, and it's obviously one of the biggest regrets early on. I spoke to you last time. I'm writing an article at the minute, and I think there's probably a good podcast in here. And if there is, then you and I can work together on this one. But I'm writing an article at the minute called "I Was a Shit Boss."
Yeah.
Right, and it's me holding my hands up to say, actually, early on, I was a manager, not a leader, and I wasn't very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
For all of those reasons I've just talked about, right? But also in my personal life, I wasn't a very good listener. So biggest learn and lesson for me has been to listen, to actively listen. One of the training sessions, coaching sessions I do now, which is about understanding and collaboration, I call it How to Catch a Lion, because it's influenced by a piece of homework our 7-year-old came back with about 10 years ago. But one of the key things there is about the 5 steps. And one of them, the first step is to listen, to actively listen, right? Not just to hear, but then to pause, to moderate that initial emotional response that you might be, right? Then to validate. Could you just clarify that? Clarify that and validate that and make sure you understand that. And those are really, really important. Before we start going into a response, that's like 4 steps down, right? And then commit. And it's the first step is to listen. And the reason I designed things the way I do now is because I knew that I was really bad at that at the start, and I know the value. So for me, biggest learn and also biggest regret. Biggest learn is to listen. Biggest regret is not listening previously.
Thank you for sharing that. Final one. Any words of wisdom, inspiration, a quote maybe that you live your life by that you think someone else needs to hear?
Yeah, and I'll probably misquote it, which is there's 2.
It's always the way.
There's 2. No, there's loads actually. Now you've asked me the bloody question. There's a few.
Just go with the first one that came to mind.
There's a few that I really like, but the one that I was going to choose another one. I think it's Abraham Lincoln. We might need to validate this.
It might have been Abraham Lincoln.
There we go. It might.
Yeah. Allegedly.
Google it. I don't like that man much. I need to know him better. I think that's a lovely, lovely, lovely quote.
Yeah.
Right? And again, back to conflict. If you don't like somebody, I'm looking at you. If you don't like somebody, ask yourself why and get to know them better. Yeah. I started a thing on LinkedIn, which was driven by my complete frustration at some of the behaviors I was seeing on LinkedIn. So I started a hashtag called 3 Kind Things. And it encourages people to do 3 specific kind things. And the first one is to smile at a stranger. Say hello and smile at a stranger. Build that emotional connection. Have a positive impact on somebody when you walk past them in the street. The second is to learn something about a culture, a way of life, an illness, whatever it is, that you don't already know about. Really learn something.
Enrich yourself, right?
Right?
Yeah,
because it's part of that tolerance, it's part of that understanding. And the third is to ask yourself if there's something about your own attitude, your behaviour, that you could change for the better. Right? So when I talk about these 3 kind, those are the 3 kind things. And that's why I chose that quote versus another one, which was about personal progress. I don't like that man much. I need to get to know him better.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like that.
Tolerance, understanding, patience.
And also just acceptance of the fact that you know, not liking somebody oftentimes is down to the fact that you just don't know them.
It's as simple
you
as
don't know
that.
them not to like
them. You
them, right?
don't know them. You do not know somebody. And look, we all have different ways of thinking, operating, being. We have different ways of being.
Yes.
Right? We do. We fundamentally do. Most conflict is because we don't understand people.
Yeah.
We don't understand the perspective, but we also don't understand the experiences they've had. We don't understand the pressures they're under. You know, in a working environment where you've got everybody in a room and you're trying to be collaborative on something, right?
Yeah.
That conflict comes because maybe there's an ego, right? You've got different people in different styles, but principally it's because you just probably don't understand that person. And it might be you don't understand the job they do. It might be understand that you don't understand the task that they've been set. It might be because you don't understand the culture that they bring or the experience or the perspectives. But if you pause and just seek a little bit of clarification, if you just have that conversation, if you look to build a relationship before you're trying to deliver something, relationship before product, right?
Yeah, talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
No, completely agree.
You cannot deliver a product without having some sort of relationship. And that the same is applicable between the business and the colleague as well, right? Yeah, it all comes full circle, you know. And if I go back to, as we started, the proper technical, practical stuff of change, delivery, you know, the ADCAR model, awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement. The same is applicable when you're developing people, right? No change, whether it's development or a specific element, system, solution delivered within a business, nothing is linear.
No.
It's always cyclic, right? You have to continually improve. You have to improve, not approve. You have to, because that's life. We talk about making mistakes. We talk about embracing failure.
Yeah.
Black box thinking, which is Matthew's side. Yeah. Learn from your mistakes, because that is how you ultimately progress and you grow. Embrace change, right? Embrace people.
You may as well, right? Because change is coming regardless whether you like it or not, and people exist.
Of course they do.
So embrace them. Don't run away. Don't try and...
But that's it. And speak to me, because I can help.
Yeah, mate. I think that's a beautiful place to leave it.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, mate. Honestly,
Genuinely,
thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Guys, to hear more from Joe, to connect with him, to look into all the different things that he's involved in, his LinkedIn link and websites and stuff will be in the description below. That's it for another episode of RecTalk. The new episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday, so look out. Make sure you press the little bell button to be notified every time we drop a new episode. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the cool shit that you guys do that allow me to do this as a job. We'll see you again next time. My first recommendation to you is Infinity Staff Global. Ross and the team specialise in finding you outsourced and offshore staff based out in South Africa. I can talk from experience, fantastic members of staff, but they can help you get 180-degree recruiters, 360-degree recruiters, back office support, marketing professionals, or even business development professionals for your team. Link in the comments. Next up is Matt Fox and Exodus Advisory. If you're an agency that's looking for guidance and growth advice, if you're looking for mentoring, if you're looking for a recruitment leader to take you from startup through to sell up, Matt Fox is your guy. This is a person who recently went through exiting an agency, explored all the different options, and is very well placed to help you tailor your business model and your business strategy to achieving the exit that you are looking for. My next recommendation is SourceFlow. Now, there's lots of reasons to recommend SourceFlow, but one that stands out for me is their attribution analytics and their actual ROI tools. So SourceFlow shows you agencies exactly where every candidate and every client lead comes from, and soon you'll even be able to do revenue analytics and let you decide and figure out the ROI of every placement that's been made via your website. Again, link in the comments. My next recommendation is the Marketing Junction. So if you're looking to increase your sales and profits, reduce costs, and choose recruitment marketing specialists who've got years of hard-won experience, get in touch with Robert Woodford and the team and take your recruitment marketing that little bit more seriously. My final recommendation for you is none other than Conquest. Carl and the team are the only commission management platform in the recruitment industry. So if you're looking to automate, calculate, and motivate your recruiters using their commission structures, if you want to keep an eye out what's going on, if you want advice and recommendations on how you should be structuring your commissions, get in touch with Carl and the team. Link in the descriptions.